I think today's church, evangelical churches to be exact, I'm not talking about the other denominations. I'm talking about fundamentalist evangelical Christian church. I think they are in denial of things that they have not sorted out in regards to their doctrines and their beliefs. Now, when you look at fundamental beliefs, they believe that the Old Testament, or that's what they're told, and they stick to it, that the Old Testament presented one God, that the only wise God, the only God that was the real God was Yahweh. Now, honest Jewish scholars like the late Zechariah Sitchin, his last name is spelled Sitchin. He died in 2010, and he wrote a book. If you're really into scholarship and those that are in the fringe who have been kind of suppressed a little bit, then you should know Zechariah Sitchin. He is a Jewish person who wrote a famous book called The 12th Planet. And you can look him up on Google or even on YouTube. You'll see several interviews, one of which was with another man by the name of, oh my gosh, what's his name again? I think it's Jordan Peterson. But anyway, Zechariah Sitchin will take you into the very nuts and bolts of the Old Testament, and his proposal is that God was not one person; it was many, many persons, almost like God was the head of a board member of gods, and these gods came from a planet called the 12th planet, and they came down to Earth. And again, I don't believe this. I'm just telling you what good Jewish scholars have, like him, has shown, that they came down to Earth from a place called Nibiru, and essentially they came down to find gold on Earth. But the people who came down, the gods who came down to find gold on Earth, decided they didn't want to go back to the 12th planet. And so what they did is they established families down here with women that were already here, human beings. And that coincides with Genesis chapter 6, right? Where it talks about the sons of God seeing the daughters of men. It also coincides with the book of First and Second Enoch, I believe, because there's three books of Enoch. You can get that down on Google too. And Enoch tells you of the 200 people or gods that came down, right? And they were grouped into 20s, different groups. And then they came to spearhead this gold excavation from Earth. And that, the women were beautiful. They decided to stay here. They rebelled against the gods of Nibiru. Now that sounds like something like Harry Potter, right? Like, it's not exactly the story of Harry Potter. I'm just saying it sounds like a kind of legendary story. But the thing is that the Old Testament is as a result of a lot of influences from prior civilizations, like the Sumerian civilizations, right? And the Egyptian civilizations, right? So they're all, Jewish civilization was an offshoot, or it wasn't even a civilization, it was just a family, right? But a Canaanite family. But the thing is, it's interesting reading because evangelical Christians want to say that the one God principle, the monotheistic God, got transferred into the New Testament time. The focal person, of course, is Jesus. And at the same time, they want to say Jesus is also God, right? So in one sense, they're acquiescing to the fact that there are three persons in the Godhead, but they still want to say it's one God. But you can't have your cake and eat it. Now, Zechariah Sitchin, being a Jewish person, he is showing you that the gods of the Old Testament, it's many gods, and El was fighting against the other gods, right? And then, you know, so you had other gods, and these gods were at rival with the other gods. And then when you go into the New Testament, right, you look, because the New Testament was written in Greek, so there's a lot of Greek influence. Then you find out that Greeks had many gods: Zeus, Thor, Aphrodite, all these different gods and goddesses. And they were also at odds with each other, right? So the end of the tale is this: there is nothing concrete in the Old Testament, in the Bible, that substantiates factual proof that there is just one God. This God in the Old Testament also says, hey, I am God, worship me only, do not worship other gods. Why would one God say, do not worship other gods, if they were not gods? It's like me saying to a woman, you have to be with me, don't be with any other man. Does it mean that I'm the only man on earth? There will be many men on, and I'm being so jealous that I'm telling her she better not go. And as a matter of fact, I tell her, if you go and worship that, if you go to that other man, I'm going to deal with you heavily. That's the attribute of God. He does not want you to be involved with any other gods. But if the other gods were not gods, why would he be so jealous as to want you for himself? Do you get the picture? It really, the evangelical Christians need to sit down and do an honest evaluation of the message that they're preaching and realize that the message is not concrete. It doesn't flow, right? And if they would just reach out and learn from people who have spent most of their lives studying the Hebrew and studying the cultures around that time, and also studying what the Jews really believed, because even the Jews didn't believe in one God. That's why Rachel hid all the gods when Laban was coming after Jacob to find his gods, because people didn't believe in one God. They've never believed in one God. As a matter of fact, in Kings and Chronicles and all these, Israel was constantly being accused of being affiliated to other gods. Even Solomon, who was considered the wisest man, became distracted by the women that he had, the 300 wives and 700 concubines. Why do you think these women were affiliated to other gods? And the Bible says even Solomon started worshiping other gods. So, do you see how convoluting that story is? And how, if we're going to be honest with ourselves, and if evangelical Christians are going to be honest with themselves, you know, they'll have to attest to the fact that their story is not straight. Think about it.